I remember saying to Michael when I very first met him, if you ever have any extra needs, I don't want to know, and even more important, I don't want anyone else to know. And that's the price you'll have to pay. And I think that's quite a decent attitude, isn't it? A fair one. And that's how it is. It's pretty secretive.
That same proposition, by the way, about not letting anybody know, if you have any other diversions, don't let me know. That was the same principle on which Nye and Jenny worked, I think. And that was a perfectly sensible thing to do. So I've really got nothing much to add to what she said. And she's laughing about it. And there you are.
Foot was enjoying his time as a minister. But his record in office was a somewhat hit-and-miss affair. And the early honeymoon period with the trades unions was fast coming to an end. Foot's own constituents in Ebbw Vale marched in angry protest when the government decided to close down the uneconomic steelworks, the area's main employer.
I'll tell you the truth as I've always told you the truth, and I believe the people are you don't do that! Because what we've got to do... What we've got to do is to... What we've got to do is to save the future of Ebbw Vale and the Valley Towns. That's what I'm seeking to do.
Jim Callaghan became Labour Prime Minister after Harold Wilson's sudden resignation. He took over a minority government in deep economic crisis. And he made Michael Foot Leader of the House with the task of cobbling together parliamentary deals to try and keep the government in office.
What we're going to do now, we'll carry on.
What do you think were the biggest mistakes that you made in your time as a Cabinet Minister?
The biggest mistakes is a very difficult question. The biggest mistake was the way we failed to present and discuss properly the 5% pay policy that was put forward in the so before what became known as the Winter of Discontent.
In the autumn of '78, the trades unions angrily rejected the government's proposed 5% pay limit, with inflation running at double that figure. Foot's friends in the public service unions went on strike and presented a propaganda gift to the Tories.
The rubbish piled high in the streets, ambulances left unmanned, the dead unburied.
Terrible things happened in the Winter of Discontent.
Did you feel betrayed during the Winter of Discontent?
No, not at all. I felt that we had to continue an intelligent conversation with them, even though the conversation might be in difficult circumstances, and even though we could understand what were the difficulties of the different individual leaders. And eventually, as I keep on repeating, eventually we did get a fresh agreement.
But by then, it was too late.
Well, as it proved to be too late.
The Tories' decisive election victory in 1979 once again plunged Labour into a bitter internal battle for the soul of the party. The commander of the left was Tony Benn, who concentrated his fire on the Labour right.
They have nothing to offer. And if you want to know what the real unwritten news story of the last few years is, it is that the right wing of the Labour Party are bankrupt.
The Labour right, led by Dr. David Owen and Shirley Williams, were themselves threatening to break away and set up a new social democratic party. By 1980, Jim Callaghan decided to throw in the towel. In the subsequent leadership election, the favourite was the right-wing Denis Healey.
I think it'll go well.
Do you think it'll be close?
I've no idea.
Foot was reluctant to stand, but was persuaded by left-wing union leaders and constituency parties.
Lots of people said to me, you can hold the party together better than the others can. Lots of people said to me, if Dennis Healey elected, and he looked very likely to certain that he would be, you know, there's going to be such a bust-up in the party that we won't be able to hold the thing together.
The first bust-up had come when Foot slipped and broke his ankle within days of winning the leadership.
I just want to do 1 foot forward.
Right.
How long are you going to be in plaster, Mr. Foot?
About a few weeks, but as I say, no engagement is cancelled, including the removal of the government.
David Owen, along with 26 other Labour MPs, ignored Foot's entreaties to stay and fight their corner within the party. The Gang of Three's decision to found the SDP was a particular blow to Foot, as Owen was MP for Foot's old Plymouth seat.
I like Michael, but I have never agreed with him on any serious, major, substantive issue of British politics. To find him leader of the Labour Party, we're holding all these sort of, in my view, outrageous views. I mean, a really committed CND. I mean, not just a minor thing. He marched from Aldermaston from day one. Wholly implacably opposed to the European community. Great believer in nationalisation, no understanding of the economic market.
If you're going to be attacked by anybody, he's the person, isn't he? He's the worst mountebank I've ever seen in British politics. Who believes anything that Dennis, what's he called, David Owen, believes? He was given a peerage by Mr. Major for services to the Conservative Party. He sits in the Lord as one of Mr. Major's nominees, and I must say he's earned that one.
The defection of the Gang of Three was matched by a concerted left-wing campaign against Foot's leadership. It was led by his old friend Tony Benn, a highly skilled political organiser who allied himself with the activists of the far left. The Trotskyist militant tendency had infiltrated the Labour Party. But when Dennis Healey and Michael Foot eventually sought to have Militant expelled from the party, they were opposed on Labour's ruling National Executive Committee by Benn and his allies.
Tony Benn and some of the others were using the machine in a way that I thought was absolutely scandalous. We had every month a meeting of the National Executive, which instead of being a meeting of the executive of the party, was turned into an absolute gift to the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, and all the most bitter enemies of the party. They had all the journalists outside waiting for the latest meeting of the National Executive to feed the kind of stuff that suited them.
Well, they'll try, but it won't work.
So I would say to people,
Well, I think the people who moved it will hope it leads to expulsions, but it won't succeed. And so I'd say to people at home, particularly good Labour people, don't worry. They got rid of Cripps and Bevan and Foot, and they all came back. And if they get rid of anybody this time, they'll all be back. So don't worry.
Big smile, please, sir. Right. Mr. Foot, round behind you, please.
Foot was no match for the wily Tony Benn on the media.
That's what you said.
I think Michael became a sort of living parenthesis. He would hardly be able to speak on those awful, sort of political programs without constantly thinking, well, I mustn't upset the unions, I mustn't upset this person, I don't want to be unpleasant to this person, I do. And so his sentences got longer and longer, and the parentheses in the sentences got longer and longer because of all the pressures he felt. And because he's such an overwhelmingly generous man, intellectually generous, he found it very difficult to take a hard and tough line and say, well, this is clear, what I'm saying on this is absolutely clear, I'm going to say it in 2 sentences, and I don't care who's upset by it.
I'm a leader of the party, and I hope we won't have any expulsions from the Labour Party, because I hate expulsions. Some people used to try and expel me in the old days. They tried to expel more eminent people than myself. Aaron Bevan, they tried to expel him once, but after he died, they had a commemoration, for him, and said he was the greatest statesman of the age, as I think pretty well he was. So you have to be very careful about expulsions.
When you became leader, it was television that was seen as one of your problems.
Yes, well, it certainly was a problem, and I don't think I solved it, and I should have listened to lots of people who were telling me how to solve it better, and I should have done that, no doubt. But, I didn't really think I had the time for it or that I could change. I was much too late to change by then. So that was a general disability that I had as a leader.
One thing he said to me, I said, what's good about being the opposition leader? What's the best part of it, he said? The car, Spike. I said, do you use it inopportunity. He said, oh, yes, been up to the Lake District. Yes.
Right, here we are. Now, where's the driver?